John Davies, absolute subject, but we
Salute our man. Hungry, marginalized, devastated, suffocated, poverty-stricken masses. I gotta get agitated. Okay, this is it. As you already know, you've been following our presentation since yesterday. We are dedicating this week to the Liberian economy. Today we're going to shift a little bit to look at the past and of course compare that to the present. If you've been following, and 2 weeks ago we placed the emphasis on April 12, April 14 of 1979. The issue that led to that centered around self-reliance, economic empowerment, the right of the people to be in charge of the economy, and the rest of them. Now we've arrived at 2014. We are here today. A lot of issues stay persistent. So I've called two persons. One is a professor and a former finance minister, versed in the area, understand the issues. His name is Tarpeh, and he will give his perspective on the topic being discussed. And of course, we have a brother in the person of John Davies. Is the president of the Liberian Bank for Development and Investment, LBDI, and also passionate about the subject, and he has a lot of understanding when it comes to what we're talking about. Gentlemen, good morning and welcome to the True Breakfast Show.
Good morning.
Thank you for inviting us. Yes, I think we'll start with the prof. Let me just place in this one. I want you just the next 2, 3, perhaps 5 minutes, just give a perspective on the state of the economy and taking the issue of self-reliance and the right to self-reliance and the rest of them.
Wow,
that's okay.
That's a little too broad. But let me see if I can have an understanding of what you're asking me to do. Obviously, I don't have all of the answers. First, let me thank you for the invitation. My limited knowledge of this economy will go back to...
Probably sure it's limited knowledge?
Yes. To sometimes some 40 years ago, those of us who follow history. Our forefathers established this place as a truly independent country and a free enterprise system where the private sector serves as the engine of growth. As far back as 1962, our forefathers had determined first that the participation of Liberians in the economy will be facilitated by the establishment of a national financial institution. And so they put the work together thanks to the likes of great men like the late Frank Stewart, Jim Bush, the late Stephen Talbot. These people put a plan that gave birth to the Liberian Bank for Investment and Development. The primary purpose of that institution was to provide credit facilities to Liberians who were in the area of agriculture, mainly rubber. And so they decided they would put the bank together. In order to do that, they brought, foreign participants on a bilateral basis, like the FMO, the Dutch FMO, the African Finance Corporation of the World Bank, and arm of the World Bank, and several other institutions also came in, and they came together with the government of Liberia to form LBDI.
With the intent of?
With the intent of providing credit facilities to Liberians to build Liberian businesses and industries. 8 years into the experiment, they decided that, okay, LBDI is doing well, but the cake is a little too large for LBDI alone to do it. So let us try to be specific. Then they decided in 1973, after a World Bank visit in January of the year before, 1972, decided that let us look at agriculture. In fact, that decision was prompted by a report of the IMF that suggested that extractive industry, which at the time constituted a significant part of our export proceeds, will be going under difficulty. That the likes of LMC, which in Birmingham here at the time, will be having difficulty. So they put together a plan. And the interesting thing is, when the IMF report was made, the government decided to put a team together. They put a 5-member team together. And that 5-member team included some of the most prominent Liberians we have in this country. That team was led by a young economist in the Ministry of Finance, now our valued president, Sharif. They produced a 33-page paper, and that paper served as the blueprint for the 25-year long-term development plan. That plan was adopted by the government and passed on to a unit in the Ministry of Planning called the National Planning Council. And that council or that unit was responsible for all long-term economic planning. Nobody went anywhere to take a loan without the approval of the National Planning Council to the cabinet. And let me tell you what the plan was. One, we are an agriculture-based economy. We will establish an agriculture bank specifically to cater to agriculture. When we do that, we also set up and bring our people. At the time, President Tarpeh had the mattresses.
What year are we talking about?
We're talking about 1972, 73,
Okay.
74.
In the 70s.
Yeah, we established an institution that will allow people to borrow and build their own houses. So they set up the housing bank.
Start expanding.
Yes, they started a housing bank. Housing bank, the act was passed. And then on the larger economic front, they decided it is about time now that we have our own bank, central bank. So they established the National Bank of Liberia in 1974, the Housing Bank between that time in 1976, the Agricultural Bank in 1976. They had a three-prong. The last part to that was added in 1978. And to add it on, the Minister of Finance at the time in 1979, our president was Minister of Finance. She decided to add the last piece, and that was the insurance. But before she did it, she called for a study, and this study was done by Morgan Grenfell. And they decided, apart from the banking, there another part of this sector, which is the insurance sector, we will establish the National Insurance Corporation. That was it right there. And
So those were the framework.
that was the framework. That was the framework. So that if you wanted a loan, you go to LBDI for the larger one. If you had a cocoa farm, you go to the agriculture. By 19 yeah, after the coup, I wasn't here, but I was privileged. Came back in 1982. Later on, I came and got thrusted into the agriculture bank. The people followed the plan substantially, so that by 1986-87, the cooperatives in this country were powerful, very, very powerful, to the extent that they were able to raise loan money to lend to the government at attractive interest rates.
The cooperative.
Yes, the cooperative. And what was the ownership? What they put in that plan was that the agricultural bank should not only be owned by the government, it should be owned by the government, by the farmers, the cooperatives, and the credit unions and LPMC.
Wonderful.
That was the plan.
Perfect.
And so
thank you for your
that I thought to give you that. So those things are relevant
basis.
than the web. That is the basis of our goal.
Okay, so we'll move from there later on. Let's get a take of Mr. Davies on the point that we discussed.
Thank you very much, Mamadi. And it's always,
I think the emphasis is on self-reliance.
yes, it is always, a very wonderful opportunity when you sit in the presence of erudite professors such as Professor Wilson Tarpeh, who I was privileged to study advanced accounting and financial management honor. And so it's like a professor relationship. Let me
keep it one of the best.
let me add a couple of additional information, which again I'm pleased to say that we learned from Professor Tarpeh in the context of contextualizing Liberia's the history of Liberia's economy and its impact with regards to self-reliance on one hand and our quest to rightfully assume our position amongst the community of nations. The very onset of our independence started with the issue of self-reliance. During the colonial days, boats and ships passed through our territorial waters and were unwilling to pay taxes because Liberia was seen as a settler outpost in West Africa, and Liberia did not have any sovereignty in their wisdom. And so the great elders who signed our Declaration of Independence, who took that bold decision, started to move towards that calling from the perspective of Liberia standing up to be counted as a nation. So the whole issue of self-reliance started with the issue of our sovereignty.
Okay.
And that was in 18...
Yeah,
started in 1822 and went up to 1847. When we move on to the early 1900s, as more settlers came to Liberia, and I would encourage you to read Kenneth Best's book. As we started to establish these settlements across the Simpoa River, the Cruiservilles, the Attingtons, those areas became part and parcel of the bread basket of Liberia at the time. And what it did was that it created the basis for an entrepreneurial spirit. There were boat builders along the Simpoa River. There were master craftsmen. There were enterprising agriculturists. And so the issue of Liberia being able to control its own destiny goes as far back as that. Now, when you fast forward to 1944 with President William Fakanara Shadrach Tubman and the quest to ensure that Liberia was part and parcel of the reconstruction of the global space, and Liberia unveiling itself as an attractive avenue for foreign direct investment with the much talk about open door policy, which attracted a lot of foreign investors into Liberia. All of that was part and parcel of our leaders and our elders of the day grappling with the issue of self-reliance. Because to be self-reliant, there's several factors that must be on the table. One, you must be able to control and effectively manage your meager proceeds in terms of tax revenues and domestic revenue generation. Secondly, you must be able to answer the major challenge of food production. You know, if you recall, President Taylor had a very interesting statement he made from time to time. He who controls your stomach controls your mind. For some of us who were around, which was a kind of like rallying call to focus on agriculture and self-sufficiency. And so as we moved on to the era of the 60s, with the onset of the what we call today the Bretton Woods institutions, the World Bank, the IMF, and the multilateral financial institutions, and Liberia's quest to ensure that as a country subscribing and ascribing to best practices, we will also ensure that we will attract private sector development for major areas that were teeming challenges for us. Our elders of the day made sure that the issue of LBDI, for example, for private sector development came up, just as the professor indicated, and I wouldn't regurgitate all of that, and the various other institutions that came on. When we fast forward our economic history to the era of the 70s, President Tarpeh realized that until we answer the question of self-sufficiency in terms of food production, in terms of having an effective complement to replace the extractive industries, because by the late 70s, the extractive industries were beginning to show declining contribution to Liberia's revenue. I'm talking about the Lamcos, the bomb mines, the monorail.
As early as 1974.
Yes, they have begun to show. I mean, the data clearly show that Liberia needed an alternative approach for ensuring that our growth was sustained and we were able to be effectively in control of our own destiny. And that's what led to several of the things that Professor Tarpeh talked about. Malaysia was able to do it in the 60s. They made that transformation much earlier than us, and that's why they are a very successful agrarian economy. The Ivorians, at the onset of independence, also picked up that mantle and realized that, hey, yes, we have a few natural resources, but our best bet is to ensure that we invest in the soil, and by investing in the soil, we will be able to be in a much better control of our destiny. So Liberia was actually, pegging its strategy on the basis of the success stories coming out of some of these countries, and that's what led to the situation that was created. And by 1986, cooperatives in Liberia, just as the professor said, could stand up boldly and be counted. Now, why is all of this history necessary? Many of the challenges we face today, we experienced in the past. So one of the approaches that usually come to some of us who find ourselves having the unique privilege to be part and parcel of the solutions to deal with the challenges is that you must learn from the experiences of the past.
Okay.
Now let me talk a little bit about the current landscape. Our economy is inundated with a number of significant constraints.
Okay.
No if and end about that.
Yeah, very well. Before you come to that, because this is becoming a little bit more academic for me, and a very good perspective giving me the history of the Liberian economy, which is very good. But there are some questions I want to place that will have you, they give you the opportunity to proceed. First of all, with all of the good things you said about our past and our ability to self-manage ourselves economically, what went wrong? How come we relinquish all of the good plans? Like you talked about the banks and the institutions that were formed to meet certain areas. What went wrong after the 70s and the early 80s? And I want you to come in on that point. What went wrong vis-a-vis today?
Firstly, Liberia had been a closed country in a way in terms of the political land space. Now, one of the lessons in terms of what went wrong that we've learned is that you can have the greatest economic plans. You can have all the good economic thoughts. The disparity between your plans and your thoughts and your strategies cannot be too far in the context of the economic plans versus the political expectations. That was issue number one.
That's a little bit bulky. You want to
I will break that down. Let's come to 1979, for example. Within our economic plan, within the quest to be self-reliant, was the issue of rice production. Okay? Rice production, and just like Samuel Tuer indicated to you yesterday, prices as a major attraction to stimulate domestic production of rice was one of the factors, at least in terms of the official explanation of the government's intentions in 1979, to attract more emphasis from farmers in terms of investing in the soil, increasing rice production, making ourselves self-reliant so that we reduce the amount of the input of foreign rice coming into the country to supplement our dietary needs, and in the end, creating a whole new class of Liberian agricultural entrepreneurs. That was the economic plan, that was the economic strategy in terms of moving forward. Now,
at least that was what was put forward.
Officially. But it was not effectively married with the political expectations. So as a result of that, there were diverging opinions with regard to the real intent of this economic plan. Now in hindsight,
you bring in perception.
Yes. In hindsight, we can all say, oh, so what the government of the day was trying to achieve was actually the right thing to do. But that is in hindsight, and it is because at the time the communication strategy with regards to the roll-up and operationalization of this plan may not have been effectively or looked at. So political actors of the day and some of the skeptics of the day saw it differently. And today, the lesson we learn is that you must have a very effective communication strategy so that people have a buy-in from the word get-go. Right? So when we look at the experiences of 1979, all right, it puts us under more pressure and under a higher degree of obligation to ensure that all that we do, especially as it relates to our agenda for transformation, is communicated well to our people, so our people know what sacrifices we will have to make as a nation. Our people know what it's going to cost us. Our people have an appreciation of the timeline it's going to take.
And I must inform you that there is no communication line in the agenda for transformation.
Well, I mean, better late than never, okay? If it's not there, I believe our stakeholders can work to put it there. But what we must not forget is that if that disparity between political expectations and economic strategies and reality is too far apart, then we are verging on trouble.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Mr. David. What went wrong after all the good ideas? How come we lost track of what we intended doing?
I don't know. Are you saying that we lost track?
I think so.
I'm not sure we did.
Okay. Well, let me say this. First, let me give you my own personal background. I come from school, 1982, long time. Barely 26, military regime. I am trusted as president of a bank. At that time, you could dismiss anyone for any reason. You don't have to even give reason. But thank God first and my grandmother. You don't dismiss anyone. Nobody tells you anything about Mama D without checking with Mama D. Give everybody the benefit of the doubt. You know the lesson I learned from that? Even the mayor I replaced before I went to school was the deputy governor of the National Bank. So as much as things change, I had to look at what he did or what he was trying to do.
The Omar.
Yes, and I followed through. There are certain things that I needed to modify. And they were modified. The problem we have here, in my view, first is a matter of subjective perception. We are trying to reinvent things that are already there. Mamadi comes into the studio, or somebody comes in, or Solo comes in to succeed Mamadi, or everything Mamadi was doing here wrong. It's not possible. It is not possible. And by the time he sits down and realizes that what Mamadi or what he condemned Mamadi for, in fact, were the right thing. So now he's stuck in the mud to eat his own words and do exactly what Mamadi was doing. That is the problem, one of the problems we have. We have a perception, we come in and we say, everybody in the studio is bad, is inept, he doesn't know anything. So you try to reconstruct everything. The comment my young brother made, that plan did not only start at the agriculture, they established integrated agriculture development, LCADP, Nima County, Bond County, Labrador Rural Development Unit. There were structures that were set in place.
They were legislated.
Yes, there were structures that were set in place. The people went in line, even though there was a change in government, the military guys that came for some reason saw the plan and decided to follow. At least to the best of my knowledge, they decided to follow. You know, one of the things they did, like you said, the cocoa and coffee, palm product. You go to Sando now, ask any senator, they have a large plantation planting coconut. You know what was the intent? So that by the year 1986, that brewer will be producing ethanol. That's agriculture. So you ask me, the problem is we come and we do not look on the table to see what we met there. We condemn everything there before we sit down. And so when we get to realize that what we condemn is true, then we have problem, we are stuck.
Yes, I'm done late.
Yes, it's late. Two, in my limited view, there is a significant lack of coordination in government. I call it policy confusion. People need to sit down together. You don't have to elect Amra Kone, you don't have to elect John Davies, you don't have to elect Governor Mill Jones, but the fact is that they all work together. You must be able to sit down, discuss the policy direction, find out where you are going, so that from that table, each of you will know what you are doing, because whatever way you look at it, this is one boat that all of us are in. The policies must be coordinated so that we know where we're going.
You think, what is the reason for the lack of coordination?
We were talking about having somebody from the central bank, and you laughing? Mr. Camara, you have to reduce the volume of the receiver. Hello? Very loud. Hello? Okay, it's not getting to you. Want to contribute? We talked about that earlier on. So you were talking about not following, so you were coming with a question.
I was coming in. You talked about the lack of coordination, and what is responsible for this situation?
I don't know. I think it's a matter of individual competition.
Okay.
Wilson Tarpeh wants to be the best, better than John Davies, not even realizing that we are an integral part of its system, a team. And so our performance, the performance of the team, not individual performance. We have to look at it as a team. And the head of this team is the president. But everybody wants to be able to shine, go in the press, pay people, they get praise over the radio, and they think they're doing a good job. No, that's not it.
Is it lit?
That's not it. But I don't know if nothing is late, but the thing is, are they prepared to do it? I think they can be prepared to do it. The other things too are policies. Policy, mismatched policies. Take for instance, in the Ministry of Commerce, you go there to pay your fees, the Ministry of Commerce will ask you for Liberian dollar for all the fees you pay. Right? You go to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, I think they ask you for US dollars, right? And some Liberian dollars.
We'll have dual currencies, so.
No, I understand that.
Okay.
Then you go to Ministry of Health, the same thing. I go pay my taxes, just the other day Minister of American decided you can pay some of the taxes in Liberian dollars, but mostly it will be in US dollars. Is that correct? Now, at the same time, with all of these different approaches, you expect the central bank to conduct monetary policy. How? How?
Confusion.
Of course you make it confusion. It's a check for confusion. The guy said that the central bank, what can they do? What can they do? So we have to synchronize that policy. We have to synchronize where we're going. You can have one person doing here, another person doing here. Then you expect the central bank to conduct monetary policy. That's not possible. And if it doesn't do it, everybody goes crazy. Oh, we have to first decide which policy we want to pursue. If you're talking about dual currency, that's a different discussion. We talk a lot about that, that's a different discussion. But whatever, if you want the US dollar, decide. You want the Liberian dollar, decide. But you can't talk with two of them, especially when one of them you have little or no control. Then you expect the monetary authority to conduct monetary policy. That's some of the policy confusion I'm talking about.
Okay, Mr. Davies, your take.
Well,
What went wrong? How can we attain this self-reliance? If we are not lost track though.
I've indicated, in my opinion, the disparity between economic plans and strategy on one hand and political expectations on the other hand as one of the issues that's not wrong. Of course, people at the time felt they were marginalized or there was some degree of marginalization, whether real or perceived, it was an issue of the day. And but today, when we look at where the private sector is vis-a-vis what it was in yesteryears, we have reasons to say that we are confident and we are encouraged. And I'll give you some of the
14,
yes, I'll give you some of the reasons why I make that statement. One, more Liberians have access to loans today than at any time in the past, and I challenge the records to show me otherwise. More
there are indications of one of the constraints to self-empowerment, access to finance.
Yes, it is a constraint. It still remains a constraint, no doubt about that.
But it's better than yesterday.
But in comparison to yesteryears, more Liberians now have access to loans than at all of the data.
Are you considering the
yesteryears.
of some of the loans?
Well, loans, money comes with cost, okay?
But higher cost than before.
All right, and even in the context of higher cost than before, when you discount the money in the context of time value of money, it's cheaper.
Okay.
All right, but that's high tech financial management. Let's not, we can go into that another time. But what we cannot argue about today is that when we look at the total loan portfolio in the economy today, the total loan portfolio of all 9 banks that we have today, and we compare that to what we experienced in the past, more Liberians.
Are we computing the impact on the life of the people compared to the loan portfolio? Because sometimes it be bigger, but in real economic terms, it's not impacting the life of the people.
And there's a reason why the impact is not profound. The impact may not be profound because our economy still experiences. I mean, people use the word all the time. I know it's a broken record by now, but our economy still experiences challenges in terms of the money as a store of value, right? Yeah. So, as much as the Liberian dollar you have in your pocket, right? The value of that Liberian dollar vis-a-vis the value of prices on the market, right, is experiencing some challenges. Yes, it will also impact loans that are denominated in Liberian dollars that you take in terms of impacting whatever purpose you determine for yourself as the best fit reason for contracting those loans. So yes, we do have some challenges there, right? But I can tell you, when you look at the portfolios, especially from 2005, late 2005 to 2000 and the end of 2013, the number of Liberians that have benefited, whether it is pure commercial loans, whether it is concessionary loans, whether it is stimulus initiatives coming from various sectors and stakeholders within government, who also have recognized that access to finance is a challenge that we must surmount, and they've been doing their part to try to answer that question. We are encouraged. Now, can we build on that? Certainly we can. Can we focus more on some of those areas that will help reduce, in one light, reduce the amount of foreign exchange that is spent on imports? Yes, we can. Certainly we can do that. And what it requires is A, the continuous and sustained effort on the part of all stakeholders, right? B, the patience of our people. I know people talk about the dry dust story a lot, but patience is a very, very important virtue here.
So you think things are on the proper trajectory economically? Would you have a fair understanding of this sector, the way the economy is being run now?
It depends on the definition of proper trajectory.
The definition.
If the definition of proper trajectory is in the context of the percentage of Liberians that have access to bank finance vis-a-vis what it was in the past, yes, things are on the proper trajectory. If the trajectory, the proper trajectory you asked about is in the context of the quest to ensure that infrastructure facilities are available to spur growth and be more catalytic in terms of moving our economy from where it is to more to higher levels down the road, yes, we're on the proper trajectory. If you talk about proper trajectory in the context of people pocketbook, no, because again, as the exchange rate moves away in the context of the real value of money, clearly we have some more work to do in that direction. So it depends. What do you think?
Yeah, Mawadi, let me try to I'll be brief and then try to be direct. The first thing that we need to do, a lot of criticism we've seen that, in my view, first thing, and let me go back to that 1973 plan. You know what it did? They carved out 16 lines of business exclusively for Liberians. You know the intent of that? The intent of that was our forefathers then decided that in order for somebody to move from this level of the economy to the next level, they need to be assisted.
Is that intent being upheld now?
No, listen to me. They needed to be empowered. Close to 8 years ago, there was an attempt to even remove that. So, where we're going? Again, it comes back to the same plan. You come back here and you think nothing happened here. We need to go back to those plans. Our forefathers knew what they were doing. And fortunately, the Prescient of LBDI was a key architect of this. And she still, in my view, she still has the ability to put all of this together. We need to follow through that. 2, agriculture. I will tell you, there is a lady, I hope she will forgive me for calling her name, Miriam Jaliba. She was in the House of Representatives. That woman who was in agriculture bank, that woman made her living from selling produce. And she sent all her children to school from produce. I'm talking about a lady that was living in the Vanjima area, came from the Kwandu boning sector, the cooperative. We need to go back to agriculture. Now, if we do not go back to agriculture, if you look at the statistics, the number of people employed in that sector is decreasing.
Really?
Of course it's decreasing. It is decreasing. It is decreasing because later on nothing is there. And if there's any work, I will call it the lower value chain, meaning these people are just working, but they are not earning anything for themselves because what they are supposed to get, they are not getting it. We need to go back to that. The third thing I think we need to do, with all of this going, we need a national conversation. We need to sit down as a country. And that's why I call for a national conference. I may not call it a sovereign national conference. two different things. We have a sovereign government, but we need a national conference to discuss these things. Where do we go from here? Do we want Liberians to participate? I was so glad last night I heard a news piece where Representative Josephine Francis opened a major water plant. That is a good start. But we need to do more of that. We need to do more of that. Like my young brother said, access to loan. Although my views are a little different, but access to loan generally, that's good.
It's bigger than they used to be.
Yeah, well, it's bigger. Views are different, but we need to look at that. How many of us, Mamadi, if you had an opportunity today to go and buy 10 reams of paper, how many Liberian shops will you go to? Will you be willing to go to a Liberian shop? The agreement, the PPCC, somebody has a rule that when Liberian bid with other people, there is a 25% preference. Like, can we do that? Can our government come to do that? I don't know the answers, but I think a starting point, we need a national conference to discuss these issues. Where we came from, where we are, where do we want to go?
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Prof, and thank you, and Big Brother Davies. 077469794.
077469793.
Okay, earlier on, let me try to get to our man Sam Jackson. He had so on the last, so we're going to take some calls in the meantime.
077469793 is the line to call. 077469793. Call and walk away from the monitor.
And we're talking to. Yeah, go ahead.
Good morning. Good morning, you're live. You like to give us your name? What is the name? Go ahead.
Your email listening.
Okay.
Good morning, Sylvester.
Morning, Sylvester.
Okay. Thank you, people. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Titus.
Go ahead, Tatos.
I just called the House of Professor was in Tarpeh and John Davies and John Davies second. They are very hard-working people and very much intelligent. It's important now to go back to agriculture. Agriculture is the bedrock, should be the bedrock of national development and sustainability. I must commend two gentlemen in the studio, and I have up to them.
Thank you. Good morning. Walk away from the monitor, please. Walk away from the monitor, please. Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning, you're live.
This is Samuel B. Jacobs in Fort Point District, Montreal County.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you to that was there. One thing I want to understand is that the issue of this work currency, I just want for any accounting background, what is the disadvantages and advantages in moving out?
We don't have the time.
Thank you.
I'm not saying that you are this one country before. Even if you have started in our own countries, if our own structure has to be informing that to but seeing a structure in our
Okay.
very
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, let me take Mr. Kuti. Good morning.
Good morning, Mama. Yeah, good morning to the two economic giants in studios there. I just called to say that I hope that both of them can be available most of the time
Chakwati, thank you very much. Let's go over to our studio guests to.
Let me come to.
I want to come in and say,
Yeah, go ahead.
Professor, of course, several of the calls were about accommodations. But I think we know the accommodations and we are humbled by that. But there are two points that came out that I just want to just delve on quickly. And then I will, of course, as a humble student, submit to my very, very distinguished and erudite professor. The first one is with regards to the comment that Big Brother Sam Jackson made. And Sam is we have a big brother, small brother relationship. I respect him a lot. He's very focused and potent in articulating his views. But when it comes to the issue of price as a stimulant of demand, all right. When we are talking about the applied economics concept, there is something in economics we call Say's law. Supply creates its own demand. Okay, that's Say's law. In the wisdom of 1979, and again, I like to tread on the official explanation that's given that history has noted. No, not the perception. I go with what history records as the official explanation of the government of the time. Because rice was a political commodity and it still is today. All right? Because rice can be grown in Liberia. And studies all of the Ministry of Agriculture and the Ministry of Health have shown that rice grown in Liberia is even more nutritious than some of the rice we import in this country. The government of the day felt in its wisdom that it should spark demand for rice by first increasing price and encouraging farmers to be able to improve their yield on the basis of improved pricing, and as a result of improved pricing, create a whole brand new a whole new group of entrepreneurs. Let me give you an interesting piece of statistic. Yes, let me give you an interesting piece of statistic from today. The reason today we have 45,000 acres of new rubber of new rubber coming on stream in terms of rubber production in Liberia is because between the period of 2009 and early 2012, rubber prices were moving. What some of the theories call with geometric progression. The price of rubber was galloping, and a lot of Liberian rubber farmers noticed on the basis of the trend for rubber prices between that period, decided to go into increased rubber farming. And so as a result of that, today we have 45, and you can check this with the Rubber Planters Association, 45,000 new acres of rubber coming on. That's the effect of pricing. That's the effect of pricing. Now, without prejudice to my big brothers or perspective, I believe that if you take price as an incentive to stimulate the increased supply, and also especially supply of a commodity that whether we like it or not, we have to, we must consume for sustenance and for life, right? You have a great platform to reach out and redefine your agricultural land space, and we should not lose on that. Right now, at the Ministry of Agriculture, there are even new varieties of rice that are being produced at Kari. I can speak to that because as a development banker, one of my jobs is to be monitoring the statistics that come up. As I can also tell you that even there's a new variety of cassava that is coming up in Liberia now that produce about 3 to 4 times more yield than the average cassava, we call it basoge, that you are used to. And I'm a baso man, I was one of our things, okay? So there's a new variety that may soon be coming on the market. Why is the Ministry of Agriculture focusing on all of this? It is focusing on it because when you want to answer the question of self-reliance, you have to start by stimulating and increasing food production. The second point I like to make is with regards to the issue.
But how come this information, the thing you're saying, are new to me?
Yeah. Some of us happy to know them, so we are putting them out now. Okay. All right. In fact, I will encourage you to visit the Ministry of Agriculture. They have a program called the Smallholder Tree Crop Program. That program is not for the quote-unquote big farmers, the hundreds of acres. It's for the small guy who has a land 2 acres, 3 acres, 5 acres. Because that program is intended to ensure that we bring access to finance to ensure that we operationalize the whole issue of dealing with poverty alleviation is front and center of everything we do as a country. And the Ministry of Agriculture has a program called the Smallholder Tree Crop Program to incentivize farmers by giving them tools, by giving them seeds, by giving them farming implements, and it's working.
Okay.
It's working.
Wonderful.
All right.
Thank you very much. Because the whole next week we'll place the concentration on agriculture.
Yeah, thank you. But first, let me thank Brother Koti. I like his word, but let me say that the issue of the Ministry of Finance, I think we have some of the best young people in this country in the ministry.
Certainly.
I think what needs to be done is to remove the policy constraints so they can be able to do a good job. Minister Connor is a young brother. I think he means well, and he can do a good job if we remove the policy constraints. You know, it doesn't matter who wears the coat, as long as that coat is tight. It's going to be tight. So, and the other thing I would like to say is that, like my brother said, most of the comments were commendation. What we need to do, there is a lot of heat in the environment. We need to meet and have a national conversation. These issues are things that happened before. There are plans that are here. We need to meet with ourselves and share these plans. And the President of Liberia, for me, from what I know from the past in terms of what I found in history, is well placed to chair such a meeting. Bring everybody together. This is what we are doing. John is talking about a smallholder tree. A smallholder tree is something, it's not new. It was part of that same 1973 plan. They called it the Smallholder Rice Seed Project for rice farmers who were also members of the cooperative. So these are things that maybe now we are coming to grip with what is on the table. But there are a lot of things that are on this table. We need to hold a national conference, discuss our country, you know, tone down the heat.
It comes to politics.
Yes. You know, no. When I say tone down the heat, come down to the basics and see how we can create more of Josephine Francis or somebody that below her. If I have a Liberian who has a printing press, I would prefer to go there as long as he can do a job. But if we expect a Liberian with a printing press who is doing 95% as good as a guy from other place who has modern printing, I would go to the guy in Liberia for 95%. And I can do that. I have been doing that. We should all be able to do that. And where they don't have any funding, we should be able to, like John said, give them access to funding to do that. So we need a national conversation to discuss this issue.
Wonderful.
And let me add to that last point. A few days ago, I visited a biscuit factory in the Gardnersville along the old LPRC area. I saw more than 90 Liberians at work producing biscuits that are sweeter, that are nicer than anything I've eaten imported in this country.
Yeah.
Yes. And I will encourage you to go to the Tarpeh Biscuit Factory, which is owned by the Monoprix establishment. A few months ago, I visited a nails factory owned by a Liberian, financed by us, in GSA Road, producing nails for roofing. The more we can ensure that our economic space encourage domestic production, the more we will reduce the demand for foreign exchange that is spent on imports in our country, and then we can start to resolutely and boldly answer the question of the dual currency issue. Josephine Francis, and I applaud her, and I'm one of her biggest admirers. But that factory, again, started with LBDI putting some financing into it.
Okay, that's the LBDI. I'm going to promotion. Thank you very much. And that's wonderful. Gentlemen, we come to the end. We're taking a break. We'll be right back.
Money can make you arrogant.
Have you heard the way?
Top 70 scientists. He's number 2. When it comes to schistosomia, he's the first.
Listen to him.
Yeah, look. Maybe what you need to do one of these days is to have a show where you call it the Liberian success story.
Yeah.
You know, where people who that really made leaps and bounds. We showcase
That committee I'm talking about, Ekolele was chair, Baraka was member, the late Molade was member, Jewula Joseph was member. The fifth person I still can't remember. They put that TLC page together, it became the gospel.
And when the military came, the name stayed there for